Welcome to another episode of A Superwoman Handbook. We are so happy to have our friend Hope here with us today. And she's going to talk about holistic healing. And no, we don't mean
Thanks
crystals
so
and like
much.
tap
Thank
dancing
you.
under a
Thanks so much
full
for having me,
moon.
Gillian.
We mean your entire body. And yes, your entire body, your mind, your body, your spirit. I'm going to let her talk about it because it all goes together, y'all. You can't just focus on one. You got to focus on the whole person.
Yeah. So my work in the wellness space started, honestly, it started like 20 years ago. I started teaching Pilates when I was in college. And then in my 20s, I opened up a brick and mortar studio, and that was kind of the beginning of it. And when I opened my studio, I wanted to create this space where, get everything in one place. So, we had the Pilates, we had the workout stuff, we had mindfulness with meditation and yoga. And at the time I decided I wanted to offer nutrition. And so I was did basic nutrition coaching. And I was working with women, mostly, well, all women at the time. And when I was working with women, I was listening to them, and they're coming to me like, oh, I want to drop, 10 pounds or 15 pounds, whatever. It's very basic, basic goals. And so when I'm talking to them and I'm working with them, I'm recognizing that what's actually going on in your body requires a deeper conversation than talking about calories and macros. I mean, that's really all we were talking about, all we were doing. And so that drove me down the path to becoming a functional practitioner and to really be able to dive deeper into what was going on in the physical body and, be able to run labs and look at hormones and your thyroid and your gut and all these things. Kind of while this is happening, and I'm sure a lot of listeners can relate to this, as you're growing your business and evolving, you're as a human, you're growing and evolving. And so that's kind of how, the business grows and evolves. And so I was going through my own personal journey and spiritual journey at the time. And so I was recognizing within myself, I was doing a lot of physical healing on myself. And I was recognizing that, oh, okay, like there's an even deeper layer to address here. Like, yes, there's a deeper layer on the physical body, but then really what's going on in the physical body has this deep energetic or emotional root cause. And so that was what drew me to add all these other modalities that I use. So I tie in human design, and I tie in I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, NLP, all the subconscious reprogramming. And so really being able to address, like you said, it's this whole body approach. And I have mixed feelings about the word holistic, because people either think it's like what you said, or they think holistic where it's like, oh, you're just a bunch of like crunchy granola stuff. Where no, holistic as in like the whole body, like it's the physical, the mental, emotional, spiritual. It's the whole body, because we can't compartmentalize. I mean, I think a lot of us are waking up to that now, where especially, Western medicine is really good at compartmentalizing the body. You go to this doctor for this, and this doctor for this, and this doctor for this. And your regular physical doctor isn't, you have to go to the therapist or the psychologist or the psychiatrist to talk about your mental health. Like, it's all very compartmentalized. And I think we're recognizing now that, or a lot of us are, that that's not how it works. We can't separate it. And so I really wanted to be able to bring that whole, WHOLE, holistic approach to the women that I'm working with, to really put all the pieces together. Because if you leave one out, then you're leaving out a part of the healing process. I mean, you want total, complete healing, you have to look at the whole body.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And you're right. We do compartmentalize it. And the mentality is, oh, well, if your foot hurts, why are you looking at my head? Well, they could be combined. Or if my elbow hurts, why are you looking at my back? They could be together. But they are treated very independently, and to include our emotions. And it wasn't until I started just on this quest to do a split. I know it sounds so simple. I was like, I want to do a split. And so I would just stretch a little bit more each day. I thought it was that simple. My legs need to go apart from each other. And as I was watching YouTube videos and kind of learning things like that, I realized that it was my hips that were tight. And one of the YouTube ladies said, oh, you're carrying a lot of emotion. So most people just kind of like get back in, like, oh, like, so I was trying to do a split, and I thought it was just as simple as just getting my legs further apart. And it wasn't until I was watching a YouTube of a lady who was kind of showing some tips that you often hold a lot of emotion in your hips. And so she kind of walked us through some, I don't want to say meditation, but some meditation and at first I was like, girl, this is not helping my legs get further apart. Okay. We need to be working on getting my pelvis closer to the floor, not meditating about the emotion in my hips. But there's to that. So kind of walk us through, how does that work? Why do those two things go together?
True. So I think the thing that we don't realize is, first of all, energy. I think we can all agree that energy is a real thing. And I think for a long time, talking about energy was like a woo thing, but energy is science. I mean, we know we took physics in high school, so energy is a real thing. And there are actual, tools available that measures our energetic field of our body. Like you can literally measure it with science. So this is a thing. So I think that's the first thing to recognize is that we are energy bodies and we emit specific frequencies. We're emitting energy. I think the other thing to recognize is when we talk about emotions, emotions are just energy in motion. That's what emotions are. So when we're experiencing an emotion, there is a physiological response that happens in the body. It's biochemical, it's physiological. There's hormones and neurotransmitters and all these things going on when we're feeling an emotion. And it emits energy, like it's putting off energy. And so it is an energetic process to feel and process emotions. So I think if we understand just those pieces, then we can see why this is how it attaches to the physical body, because there are physiological pieces involved in that, right? Like I said, there's hormones and neurotransmitters and chemicals that are involved in feeling and processing emotions. And so I think that we can put all of that together. So, I feel like if we can like really put our analytical minds around that piece, that really helps us put the pieces together. Because I think the problem is, I feel like it's a problem, is we're all very analytical. We're just as a society, like we're very mental, right? We have to see it. We have to see evidence. We have to see it to believe it, right? We analyze. And it's not always, that's just not how we can't see energy. Like it's not something we can see. But I think that just understanding that just the physiological response of an emotion is a way for us to kind of put those pieces together. And I think the other piece of that I want to bring out, I always talk to my clients about this. We're talking about emotions and we have an emotional event. We're experiencing an emotion. The chemical physiological process of feeling an emotion is only about 90 seconds. And after that, if we're still feeling an emotion after the fact, it's because we've attached a story to the emotion. Right. And so I think that we think sometimes too that, we're stuck in this thing that happened, 2 weeks ago or a month ago or however many years ago. And it's not the fact that the emotion is still, it's because we've attached a story to it. So we're allowing that emotion to live on in the body, even though physiological, that process is complete, but we attach the story to it. So now, speaking of holistic, now we're in the mind. Now we're in the subconscious mind because our subconscious mind has attached a story to that thing that happened. So you see how there's just these layers to things. So a lot of times when I'm working with my clients, like they come to me for the physical things. Of course, we want to get rid of the bloating or the headaches or the crazy hormones or the thyroid thing or whatever it is. But then we look at the emotional part, right? There are emotions that are kind of stagnating life force energy through the body. Then we get into the subconscious mind. We found the emotion. Why is that emotional thing still living in the body? Now we get into the subconscious mind because our subconscious mind has attached these stories to it. So it's just this multi-layered thing.
So you're saying the emotion, like the feeling of being sad or angry or happy, like that is like a sneeze. It only lasts 90 seconds.
Yeah, the chemical process.
And so then the next 3 hours I spend talking to my girlfriend 17 times about it. That's my subconscious happening again.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I needed to just work that out,
Yeah.
in my mind. Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's wild. And this is how we end up, I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Joe Dispenza, but he talks about how our personality shapes our reality. And that's how it becomes our personality. We attach these stories to these things that we've experienced and these things that we've felt. It's not the actual emotion, it's the story we've attached to it. So it's living on in our subconscious mind. And that's how we keep perpetuating it. So we get into these patterns and these thought patterns and becomes a belief. And now it's hardwired in our subconscious mind. And in order to shift that, it requires an unwiring or a rewiring to happen.
So how do you work through people to rewire that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So there's the process. The process that I use, I call them quantum healing sessions. So I'm kind of putting a mishmash of a few different modalities. So I mentioned I was a clinical hypnotherapist. So I'm using things like hypnotherapy, NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming. So basically your mind thinks in pictures, and that's what we're doing. We're putting all the five senses together to help us kind of feel emotions. And it's all a somatic process, right? It's in the body. So I'm helping my clients get in their body. And that's really like I was talking about how we compartmentalize things and we're very analytical. This is what happens. So we become so disconnected from our bodies that it's hard for us to release those emotions and rewire these things because we're all up in our head when it's all living in our body, right? There's a book, The Body Keeps the Score, that talks about this, and it goes really deep into this. It's our body is what's holding on to all of this. And so to be able to use these things like NLP, clinical hypnotherapy, some somatic practices, it's all about getting into the body and feeling what our body is telling us and feeling where these emotions, where these patterns are living in the body, and then working through a process of releasing. Because the fact is that when we either, there's two ways that I see it. A, if we're experiencing an emotional thing, that event, situation, whatever, if we don't allow ourselves to fully feel that emotion, right? We suppress it or like, I'll deal with that later, right? That lives on in us because we haven't allowed that full, like I was talking about, that chemical process. We haven't allowed that full process to take place. The other thing that happens is what I mentioned before is we feel it, but then we hold on to the story. So that it's still living in our body and in our brain and our mind. So there's two ways that I see it as how these things get stuck in our body. And so it's either A, some of my clients have these suppressed, well, all of us, I mean, all of us have suppressed things in our bodies, right? That's just what happens, whether it's big T, little t trauma, like these things live in our bodies. And so A, there's a path where, okay, let's identify where these emotions are being stuck, stored inside in the body and work to release that. And so basically it's allowing yourself to complete that emotional process. Can I go in it? It's not about reliving your trauma. It's not about that. It's just about finding that emotion. It wants attention. It wants to be felt. It wants to be experienced. So then we can transmute it into something else. So there's that piece. And then there's also the rewiring process where if these patterns and these beliefs and these ways of being are hardwired into our subconscious mind, then it's just kind of one layer at a time, peeling back the layers to rewire it, which typically for most of my clients, it's kind of just multiple sessions of kind of finding those emotions and kind of untangling what those emotions are attached to.
It seems like a very vulnerable process. Like you have to be ready
Yeah,
as a client to do something like this because so you're not really reliving your trauma. They're not talking to you like you would talk to a counselor or a
right,
therapist. Like, show
right.
me on the dolly where, the
Yeah,
pain hurt. It's not that. But you're just kind of finding it. That's so interesting to me. That there's a new kind. I don't want to say new, but a different way to get trauma, get emotion out versus just talking about it,
yeah,
which is
yeah,
what I thought was
totally.
the only way.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and it's really all about, I was on another gal's podcast a couple weeks ago and we were talking about hypnotherapy because I know there's a lot of misconceptions. People think, you've seen videos of people on stage quacking like a duck and doing really dumb stuff
Mhm.
on stage when, that's not what it is. Clinical hypnotherapy, it's all about having a conversation with your subconscious mind. And that's what the whole process is about. So like I said, it's not about reliving the trauma. It's really, can we get your conscious mind out of the way to have a conversation with the subconscious mind so the subconscious mind can tell us what's ready to be released, like what is in the body that's ready to be released.
Wow. And does that kind of fall into, I was talking to someone earlier on another episode, and she was saying how when you go through trauma, your brain, to protect itself, basically like puts a barrier around that memory. And it's
That's
not
it.
just that bad memory, good memories that happened around that same time.
Yeah.
Like you maybe went to a destination wedding and had the time of your life, but you will have completely forgotten that because
Mhm.
it happened around the time of trauma. Is that kind of what you're going in through hypnosis and getting to that part
Yeah.
and opening?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. That's exactly it. And I've had so many clients that when they're in that hypnotic state and it's getting into the right brain waves, right? Your brain waves slow down enough to get you into that calm hypnotic state so that we can have this conversation. I've had so many clients where the things that come out in their sessions, they're like, I had totally forgot that that happened. Like, it's like a memory where they're like, now that I'm thinking about it, remember, I totally forgot that that happened. Or I haven't thought about that in 30 years. Or again, like you said, it's kind of this protective. It just shoves it back. I always think in my head, I don't know if you've ever seen the movies, the Inside Out movies. My kids love those movies. But I
Oh,
always
yeah.
see the visual of that where it's like tucked back, right? They have to go back to find her sense of self, but it's like tucked way back in your brain. And that's what happens. It's like it gets shoved back there and they like, turn the lights off. So it's like, oh, let's not think about it. But when we have these, we do the somatic work and we do the kind of the hypnotherapy, these sessions, we can access those parts.
That is just so amazing that a modality like this exists and that you're able to kind of hone it and use it to help folks kind of work through things like this. So
Yeah.
what's the typical journey for someone when they reach out to you? And actually, at this point, I did want to ask you to kind of how can folks find you online? Where are you on
Yeah.
socials? How can they find you? And then what would a typical journey be like, just so they can be emotionally prepared for what
Yeah.
it would be like to kind of go on a journey with it like this with you?
Yeah, for sure. So my website is hopefulandwholesome.com. You can find me. I'm most active on Instagram, so you can find me. I'm at the Hope Pedraza, and then I also have a podcast, the Hopeful and Wholesome podcast. You can find me there. And as far as the process, yeah, you're right. There is a readiness that is required to do that. And I have, I kind of do things. I have options for people to do things in stages, but for the most part, when people are reaching out to me, I mean, my process, my framework is different. So they know that they're going to be doing things that, that maybe haven't tried before. Most functional practitioners aren't using human design and, NLP together. So the process, I'll just take you step by step. So the first thing I always look at is the lab. So I run labs. I have 3 foundational labs that I run on my clients. So I want to know, you're coming to me for whatever physical thing is happening in the body, and I want to know exactly what it is. I don't want to have to guess. I don't want to have to wonder. So the labs for me, it's the empirical data. Can we get the empirical data? I can see in front of me, this is what's going on in the body. Once I have that, then we can dive into the other pieces. Human design is a tool that I use, and if you're not familiar with human design, it's basically your soul's energetic blueprint. And so I can look at your labs. I can put that together with your human design and see like, okay, why is your adrenals doing this, that, and the other? Where is your energy? Like, how is your energy designed to flow, through the parts that are connected to your adrenals or your thyroid or whatever? And then from there, that's where the subconscious or the rewiring starts to happen. So I can look at their human design and see, okay, here's where the patterns are showing up. Here's where the beliefs are stored in the body. And now we can do the subconscious work and all this, the energy work to kind of release that and start to decondition and rewire.
Wow, it really is. I mean, the fact that you're doing labs, and if someone's not in your area, do they get these labs done in their local town and just send you the paperwork?
So it's all done remote. I mean, my practice is virtual. I have clients in Europe and Mexico and Canada and Alaska and you name it. So it's all virtual. So I order the labs, they ship to you, you do the labs, you ship them back, and then I get the results.
So I don't have to have a needle asking for a
No, yeah.
friend.
So I'm
There's no
doing
needle.
there's no needle. There's no needle. No, so the functional labs I do, they're going to be different than regular blood labs. Now, I always love when my clients have gone to their doctor and they've done recent blood labs because I can just kind of put that together with the other data I'm collecting. But with functional labs, the difference between conventional labs and functional or conventional labs really are for markers for disease. Functional labs are just what it sounds like. It's for function. Can we see how your body is functioning? Like, I don't want to just know if I'm sick or not. I want to know how my body is functioning, because the women coming to me, and I work with men too, that are coming to me, they want to optimize. Like, I don't want to just know that I'm not dead or I don't have a disease. I want to optimize like what's already, what's working, what's not working, right? So the functional labs, it's one of them is it's called a hair tissue and mineral analysis. So literally sending in some of your hair and it's going to analyze your minerals, your heavy metals, toxic element, toxicity in the body. One of them is a GI map, which is a really comprehensive gut test. It's a poop test, so it's a stool test. And
Okay.
then the third one is called a Dutch test, and it's a dried urine test. You just pee on some paper. So they're all very simple, but it's all going to look at things in a completely different way than regular blood labs.
I'm glad you explained that because I was completely on board. And then when you said labs, I was like, needle,
Yeah.
I'm out.
Do I want to get needles? Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I'm out. But I'll cheer everybody else on now. So I'm glad we got that sorted so that no one is just sitting there thinking that they're going to have a needle come.
Yeah.
And I just love that this just makes so much sense because I mean, I know there's that debate, Eastern medicine, Western medicine, all that. But I just think so many of us women, not that men aren't, but I think women are so in tune with themselves just for all the reasons that it makes sense that something like this would exist, but this not something that on your health insurance card doesn't say, and your holistic provider. There's
Right.
not, we just don't have
Yes.
access to things like this. But intuitively, it absolutely makes sense. And so I'm so glad to have you come on today and not only reassure that we're not crazy, that it all does go together, and that there is hope, no pun on your name, that there is hope that you can kind of work through these things versus
Yeah.
just trying to get your legs further apart to the floor. There might be some
Yeah.
invisible thing
Yeah.
keeping your hips from doing what they want.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's it. And I think that, I mean, I could go down this rabbit hole for another hours for hours, but there is the medical gaslighting thing is a real thing. And I would say nine out of 10, 90% of my clients have dealt with that, where they've gone to their provider, whatever, their physician, whatever, and they've been brushed off. They've been, shooed away. Oh, you're just getting older. Oh, it's just your hormones. Oh, it's anxiety. When there's no attempt to dive deeper or to, why does it look like I have anxiety? Why are my hormones doing this, that, and the other? Where again, with conventional medicine is set up for diagnosis and surgery. Like that's what it is. And if I don't fit into this little box for this diagnosis, then it's like, well, I don't
Mhm.
know, right? And so for me, I want to be able to come in and like you said, it's like I want them to realize I'm not crazy. There's a validation that happens. There's this validating experience that happens when I'm running the labs and they see, oh, it's not in my head. I haven't been imagining. There are these things that aren't running optimally. It's just a whole different experience. And then to be able to do something about it, because yes, I have had many clients that have had laundry lists of symptoms and diagnoses and autoimmune, this, that, and the other. I've had plenty of clients, but I also have clients where, they're not in bad health per se. Like they're in pretty decent health or in what I would say is good health, but they feel things are off. My energy just feels off. My sleep just feels off. Like my hormones, like something just doesn't feel right. The blood labs come back fine. The doctors are saying I'm fine, but I want to feel, I know there's an optimal option out there, and that's what I want to find. And so it's being able to work towards optimal. And it's not about perfection or perfectionism. It's just knowing that there is that option out there to find optimal health and optimal well-being. And I work with a lot of high performing women. They're career driven or they have a business or, they're entrepreneurs. And so if your body isn't running on all cylinders, your business or your career, all of that is going to be affected. Your relationships, right? So it's again with holistic, it affects every aspect of your life. Your wellness, your health affects every aspect. So it's not just about like, oh, I just want to be healthy. It's how is that affecting your relationships, your friendships, your marriage, your partnerships, your career, your business. It affects all the things. I mean, I know it's cliche, but our health really is. I mean, that's all we have is our health and our well-being. That's it. So it starts with that.
But I'm so glad to hear you talk about it from such a clinical and functional perspective because I think so often what you're talking about gets clumped into the self care aisle at Target.
Mm,
And people think it's just a bubble bath. And it's like, no, I need more than a bubble bath, number one. And a bubble bath is not guilty. Like it's okay that I am going to get a massage or that I'm going to the gym to work out. Like self-care is not this gluttonous luxury that I think our society has somewhat made it out to be.
yeah.
And so I'm really liking how your modality really helps explain that no, it all goes together.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not to me, and I tell my clients, this is not optional. Like this is required. Like this is required to be able to be
Mhm.
a functioning human being that can serve the
Yep.
masses, serve the collective, serve your family, and show up how you want to show up. It's not an option. It's a requirement.
I'm almost curious, like, I think back because I'm always an early adopter with all things, and so, I was going to a chiropractor back, people were like, "You go to a chiropractor, they're gonna break your neck.
Yes.
How do you they're gonna break you in half. That's just crazy." And, insurance didn't cover it, and then insurance would cover it, but you had to do it under your physical
Yes.
therapy,
Yes.
and there's and now they're just like, "Oh, it's just fine, you get this many like, it's just mainstream, and so
Yep.
I can't wait to see the progression
Yeah.
of your that's now in the future, if it is a kind of like that chiropractic, it is just part of you go to your instead of having a DO, you go to your holistic provider, gotta get these things together. So I'm just so excited to have
That's
you and thank you for
yes.
sharing with us today.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. And I do think that a lot of there are some things doing that way because I have some clients whose insurance has like a little they'll cover this piece like, or if they have like an HSA like oh this HSA will cover these holistic things. So I do think that I'm hopeful. I am hopeful, no pun intended. I am hopeful that, like you said, because yeah, you're right. I mean, that's such a good point. Chiropractors used to be like But now it's like, being even like my mom's insurance covers acupuncture.
Mhm.
So it's like,
Yeah.
things it's some things are moving in the right direction.
When you know better, you do better, and
Yes.
I'm hoping that, this kinda becomes something that enough people work with enough people like you, and they have enough positive responses, and you
Yeah.
just talked about, and people kinda start to learn what we already knew, like, if your back's not in alignment, your feet are gonna hurt, your ankle's gonna hurt, your knees are gonna hurt, and we don't need to have knee surgeries, just keep your back in alignment, like, we don't
That's
need to
it.
have all these other things, just keep all of your, keep your holistic self in alignment,
Yep. Yep.
essentially.
That's it. Yep.
Well, I
That's
know you have
exactly it.
another call to hop on, so I appreciate you coming on, Hope, and this has just been very eye-opening and also very, justified. I feel justified in how I have felt
Yeah.
about myself. Uh, so thank you so much for
You're
sharing.
welcome. Thanks so much for having me.
Bye.